5 new painted models. So these are the Space Marine Scouts. So just a quick look into it. With the Cloaks here, I went continuing the theme of the Dark Angels being an urban force, this particular campaign they're on. So I went for the sort of camo cloaks kind of look, just to sort of back that up. And it's just a mix of different greys and browns and greens with a few streaks of silver in there, really, to just try and get that across. Because I've got like moved through cover and they're, you know, being scouts as they are, I just decided, well, I'm going to have them bring their own scenery with them. Might as well kind of have it that way. Obviously they don't get a cover save for that, but because they spend most of their time like that, it'd be an interesting opportunity to model them in that fashion. Very inspired to make the goggles a kind of nice bright green, very like Splinter Cell inspiration style. Yeah, a little bit of work there on getting the telescopic lens in some fashion, so a little bit rounded in colour there. A few things in there. There's an orc skull on that base. Again, it's just a case of getting it to a quick enough table ready standard. Gander over this one. So that's a piece of etched brass, and yeah, that's actually a piece of sprue, a little piece of red there on the base. I can always go over that with a bit of, I've still got some old graveyard earth that I'm doing them with. But yeah, that's a bit of sprue that I've bent, stuck on, and dry brushed over, and stuck bits of like sand and grit to, and then painted over so that it would be hopefully less recognisable. Yeah, the etched brass has been bent. It's one of those nice pieces with the bullets holes in it from the basing kit, and of course I've stained that to get it nice and nasty looking now. And yeah, you know, I never really try and detail to sort of like a showcase standard, but to a tabletop kind of standard, so that you can just pop it down and it'll look great. It'll look great, you know, just heading to his ruins and that. And same model again, same pose. This one, now this head comes from the basing kit, and it's a resin. See that one on the ground there, and it's like a whatever it is. So I was told by Craig that he believes that that's actually a Sororitas head helmet. So I was a little confused, but the way I wanted to interpret it was that it would have been a Dark Angel. So I don't know who's got the right of it here, but the way I interpreted it was that it would be a Dark Angel whose helmet was smashed, the visor broken, and you know the head has become skeletal underneath with just fragments of the helmet still on it. So I guess that's the way that I envisioned it. So I mean, that's how I did it, hence thinking it like that. And obviously there's again a piece of the fencing stuff, which is the etched brass that has been painted and roughed up. So yeah, this fella's pretty groovy. Again, bits of sprue stuff there that have been coloured away from it. You can see the transfer stuff that's been put on. Some of his belt accessories are of a different green, and again you can see very, very heavy-handed highlighting that I've gone for. Very sketchy, cartoony, you know, slapping it on like it's been drawn rough by hand, because up close it looks sketchy, and then when you pop it all down on the table to what's called a Wargamer standard, tabletop standard, then it looks, it all comes together. The lines look a lot sharper, and when you see a whole bunch of them together, you know, they work together. So then finally we've got the Sergeant, and just love his goggles. So I didn't have him holding scope. I wanted him pointing, giving a little gesture to his team. You can see how I've sort of highlighted that glove up with a bit of Eshin grey on the black, and just left it at that. I didn't want to go too far, you know, just sketchy, smack it on a bit here and there, just to give tiny little raised points. Yeah, just have him pointing that way, sort of saying, right, you go here, you here, just gesturing to the forces. We have a Tyranid Head that I decided to stick down for the hells of it, and I've just painted it that way, kind of grey and red, because I thought, well, I did come up with this really complex design and put all these insectoid lines at the back of the head and highlighted up from it, and you could just see the remnants of that left over, but I had to go over it because the whole thing just didn't work in like the final layers, and the whole thing just fell apart. So I thought, just screw it. All right, fine. We'll just make it this kind of nid. That is a piece of raven winged bite, because you know I'm very keen on having evidence of previous engagements from the same armies, and kind of hints at what other armies also might have been in the area fighting. So always good for a laugh. Little piece of metal in there. You never know what they're treading on, you see. That's the thing, as they're picking their way through this debris. There could be anything underfoot. Oh man, look at that side basing coming off like that. I lay it on thick, but I know, certainly does like to pull back off again. And the thinking behind it was, well, I'll get snipers initially because it'll be a pinning unit, and the Dark Angels are primarily very shooty army, so I thought, well, if I can pin enemies down a bit, then I can buy myself more turns of shooting perhaps, and because they are just the cheaper troops types, then people might be more inclined to leave them alone and go after some of the more dangerous stuff. I know the chances of them actually killing things with these snipers aren't necessarily as smexy as, say, going in with bolt guns and things with like 2 shots at 12-inch range and so on. But I think they've probably got their own place. So it's going to be a case of figuring out how to use these guys initially, and then if I expand on it, maybe increase the squad size. With heck, I could do another 5 with all snipers, couldn't I? And then really see what we kill. Or, you know, do 5 with maybe like shotguns or something, so that they can give different types of fire to other enemies that get close. And I'm not sure if we can combat squad snipers. Not sure, but if we can, then that would be a good idea, maybe even to combat squad, say 5 of them with more shorter range weaponry, and have them go in behind enemy lines to disrupt with a different kind of job, and then have these ones sitting back with their sniper rifles doing what they do. And of course the sergeants in these have the 1 extra ballistic skill as well, unlike the other Space Marines, so he's more like a veteran type himself. But then that's behind the fluff of it as well. A really good scout sergeant is a very valuable person in the Astartes, because you know it's someone that helps teach the future, and if they find a good one, even though he might qualify to go up into the higher companies, he might have served for as long as some of the longest serving veterans, but because he's developed so many great Astartes, and he's particularly good as a scout, veteran sergeant in those cases, then they might well keep him in there. I like scouts. I think they're interesting. They aren't a lot cheaper than Space Marines, but of the tactical squads, but nonetheless, it's a different kind of look to break up the army. So that's the next unit shared with you, and I'll see you back here for the next one.